Welcome to another episode of the Totally Detailed podcast. We are back after a small break. We had a couple of weeks off, and we're joined with the Leatherman, Richard Hutchins. Hi, Rich.
Hiya, how you all doing, everybody?
Good stuff. And we are joined with, and I say this every week, but I am genuinely excited for this guest. I know I say it all the time. Pete, I met you down at Jordan's Detailing World.
Yep.
Yeah. Got straight into a conversation. Very open conversation. I'll give you that. Fantastic guest for the podcast. Immediately, as soon as I started talking to you, it's taken a little time to get you on, but we've got there in the end. So, if you wanted to introduce yourself, Pete.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Peter. I'm from a company called Design by Detail, which is my own company, and we're based on the M4 corridor, so very close to Reading, just outside of about half an hour, just outside of London.
Good catchment area, being from London, definitely.
Yeah,
good area anyway, isn't it? You know, you've got it's good catchment area around there with Winnersh, Wokingham, and all those areas anyway, and Reading, obviously. And
yeah, it's quite a nice area.
Yep.
But I actually live just on the outskirts of a very affluent area. I live just outside of Ascot, Sunningdale, Wentworth.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of clients over that way. So I'm quite fortunate, really.
Yep.
Really, the areas.
Yeah, definitely. Good.
Is that sort of like your main customer then?
I would say I have, if I probably added up my customer database is very, very small. I would say 95% of my work is all repeat work. So whether it's detailing their cars and then maintaining their cars some I have weekly, some I have fortnightly, and then I have one or two that are monthly. And then generally it's every year or every couple of years they change their car. So then we redetail it and then maintain. So yeah, we are quite fortunate with the level of clients that we do have, that they're sometimes constantly chopping and changing their cars. I had one guy, just for instance, I detailed his 488 GTB, and then within 2 months he messaged me and said, "Oh, I've swapped it. I've got another one. Can you do this one now instead?" So it's you know, we are quite lucky that it just some people are just changing their cars all the time.
I always like that though, when you've like detailed the car and put a coating on it, and then like a year or so later that customer gets back in touch and wants a new car doing. So to me, it's like that little like tick in the box that you met their expectations, they was happy with the coating. It's just nice when you get that return.
Yeah, I think that my thing with the industry is that I've always said is that if you're honest and upfront with the customers, they always appreciate what you do or how you come across. And always my first question is always say to my customers is, how long are you going to keep the car for? Even if it's a brand new car or if it's a used car. If they're going to keep it for, I'm going to keep it for 18 months, 2 years max, because I've got something else on order. It's an in-between car. I might only keep it 3 years. I'm not going to push them into a 5-year product. I'm not going to push them into something that's longer. But on the flip side, I'm not going to sell them a 1-year coating. I have some customers that say, I might keep it a year, maybe 18 months. So I say, well, let's put a 2-year coating on it, and you've got a window, but there's no point me selling you a 3-year coating. And they appreciate our honesty. I'm not stitching them up. I'm not overselling or trying to push something on someone. And then they appreciate that. And then when they get the next car, that comes straight back in, because they know that they'll be honest, and they'll say, I'll ask the question again. And then I'll just give them what they want and maybe just a little bit more, but without sort of going well overboard. There's no point in putting, in my view, something that's 5 years, 6 years down the line, and you know that they're only going to keep the car 2 years because they're just not going to get the benefit, and they're just spending money for the sake of it. So I think that's where a lot of people appreciate honesty.
Is it just coatings, or are you still doing waxing side of things?
I do sometimes. I have this thing about not necessarily just about brands, but about trying to showcase or trying to use the best, for my clients without going overboard with price. So, because there are some people that will say that there are better waxes on the market that will last longer, but I try and sell to my customers. If it's a classic car or something that's a bit older and they're going to wax themselves, I'll sell them a detail package or something, and I'll use Swiss Wax products on it. A lot of people that have got, that want to spend a little bit of money, they just like that mark. They like that marquee, so they can say, oh, my car's been done by Swiss Wax, or it's had this done in it, or it's had this done in it. Yeah, I would say some clients that we detail or we machine polish, sometimes we only put a spray sealant on because they're cars that are just going to be in storage for a period of time. But generally, if it's a new car or something else, then they have coatings go on, some PPF, but it's all down to how long people are going to use the car and what they're going to use it for. Really, it's trying to gauge that from the client.
Do you do PPF yourself, Pete, or do you have someone come in?
I have someone that comes in and I do it with them. Yeah, so it's a service that I offer to my customers. It's not something that I'll be honest, I would love to be able to do it myself, but the unit that I'm currently in doesn't have the space to be able to have the computer and the plotter and everything all in-house. And I have this mindset that perhaps if I'd have had this mindset when I first started out, but if you're going to do it properly, or don't do it at all, really. So I wouldn't go into doing PPF and buying pre-patterned parts from people, because if there's something wrong with that pattern, or you get it in and the car's got to be done within a couple of days, and you have an issue with that piece that you're putting on, you're then stuck. And the cost difference between buying film on a roll and cutting it yourself is a darn sight cheaper than just buying pre-cut patterns. So I would love to, but this facility where I am at the minute just doesn't allow me to do that at the minute. But hopefully down the road we might be able to.
Yeah, a few have said about it with the pre-cut patterns that it's one thing goes wrong, you've got to wait, and obviously get that new part come in again, which could take a week or whatever, or however long it takes. So you've sort of screwed that client around, haven't you? So it's like, and it becomes very expensive with the pre-cut patterns. So doing it yourself makes sense, but it's like you say, it's space at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah. And as I said, if you're going to do it, just do it properly from the start.
Is it something that you'd maybe look at doing, maybe expanding or going into a bigger unit?
Yeah, I want to get into a bigger unit. I have this kind of vision of where I want to be in a bigger unit. I don't want to be just I don't want to just have a detailing studio or a detailing unit. I want to have like a hub, where people can pop in, have like a bit of a mezzanine floor, either above an office or above like one of the detailing booths or something like that, and an open area where the cars will be. We're working on them, but they can come in, they can see us working on their cars if they want to. They can sit on the sofa, they can come and have a coffee, come and have a chat, a bit more of a relaxed atmosphere rather than just a very clinical. Yeah, I would love to be in like a really old building, but like not kind of modern inside, but clean and clinical inside. Like something a little bit different to what sort of everybody sort of tends to go down the same road of. It's very, a lot of people are just very the same. They get a unit and then they box it inside and they put a couple of shelves inside it and put some doors on it. And I would quite like to be a bit different, a bit of bespoke, really, I suppose, like memorabilia on the walls, all that sort of stuff, something a little bit different.
I'm going to say the old place that we used to live at years ago would have been ideal for you. Robin Hood Way at Winnersh.
Yeah.
Farmhouse, 16th century farmhouse at Robin Hood Way. It belonged to a doctor when we bought it. And that was absolutely beautiful, but it had all the old barns and everything. That thing that we had a restorer there as well, restoring cars, and he was doing like all Jaguar stuff, and was Roland Stote, well-known Jaguar guy. And he used to race them and stuff. But it was a beautiful building. That's the sort of thing you want, because that's ideal, because it's all the old beams. 60.
Yeah, it's also like, have you ever been to like Bicester, Bicester Heritage?
Yeah.
A little bit like that, where they're all sort of like a bit funky buildings, a bit different. They're really nice inside, all clean and clinical, and where they need to be inside. But it's like a hub, you've got a bit of everything there. That's kind of where I would like to be. Whether it will happen, I don't know, but let's try.
Got to just believe. That's all you got to do. Believe it can happen and keep pushing forward and make it happen. It's simple, isn't it? So just got to keep finding the right place and make it happen, mate.
Yeah.
It's easy as that.
How did you get into detailing, Pete?
I'm not going to lie.
You're trying to think that far back.
No, no. I'm not of the same ilk as everybody else, where everybody else has given us same old, I started washing my dad's car and bucket and sponge and all that sort of stuff. I suppose I come into it quite late. I've always been in the motor trade. I left school at 16 and I was already working part-time Saturdays, holidays, in a little local garage, but they actually did engineering. So rebuilding engines, grinding crankshafts, rebuilding cylinder heads, that sort of stuff. And they were also a diesel fuel injection shop. So we would get customers bring in pumps and injectors off diesel vehicles, often all matter of things. So in marine, commercial, cars. And yeah, we would get them in, strip them down, clean them, inspect where the parts are where, replace them, and then rebuild them and test them and recalibrate them to the spec they needed to be. So I got into that, and that's what I did for how many years? I would probably say a good 10 years. And then I took a 5-year break and run a pub.
Much difference.
Yeah. But then that kind of gave me like a big insight into customer service, dealing with customers every day, dealing with customers when, they're absolutely inebriated. So they're off their trolley at 1 o'clock in the morning and they want something and, they can't have it and you've got to deal with it. So that kind of gave me a really good footing as well. And then I went back into the diesel trade for a few years. And then just one day I was on holiday with an ex-partner and we were talking about it, and I'd started doing a few little bits, just cleaning up cars and stuff for just the guy that was on our road. He had a workshop in Hampshire, specialising in Mercedes, and I started doing some bits and pieces for him, and I was enjoying it. And we had a discussion about it, and we said, should we try it? She said, if you want to try it, try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, you can put your hands up and say, I've tried it, but it didn't work. But I've got a profession that I can go back to. I still had all my tools and everything like that. So tried it, and yeah, that was it basically. So not of the whole mindset that I've always been washing cars and looking after cars and washing parents' cars and all that sort of stuff. I would say I probably got into it. I mean, I'm 43 now, so I would say I started getting into things, like that around about early 30s. When I built a Transit Connect myself and modified it all and started looking after it properly, then I would say that was when I started really taking a bit more of an interest in it. Before that, no, it was work. And then as soon as I finished work at 5 o'clock with my business, that was it. And weekend was family time or time with friends or socialising, really. Quite late into it.
You enjoy the pub?
It was interesting. It was a quiet pub when I started, and then it transformed into a late night venue. So we would have Monday to Wednesday was always 11 to 11, and then very heavily sport. So we would show all the football, all the rugby, everything. No matter what was on, what time of day, we would always get a special license. So like when the Rugby World Cup was on in Australia, we was open in early hours of the morning for it. And then, Thursday night we'd open till 1 o'clock in the morning. And then Friday, Saturday night was 3 o'clock in the morning. So you'd get up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, you work through till 3 o'clock, close, cash up. All the staff would clean up. You'd have a drink with the staff. You'd go to bed at 5 o'clock and you'd be up 8 o'clock in the morning. So you get like 3 hours sleep.
Wow.
We were doing, I mean, I thought at the minute I'm sort of pushing like 100 hours a week, but there I was doing like 120, 130 hours a week. But you just get into it.
Yeah.
Physically. And it's when you stop, that's the problem.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's what I found when I had one as well, because we had a pub and a nightclub and a restaurant all in one hit.
Yeah.
That was the same thing that we found. It's just, you almost become zombified working the hours because you don't realize how many hours you're working. And you're sort of like, you're the last person to leave. and I was always the last person to leave, and always had the cash with me. And sometimes, because we were right on the edge of a caravan park, so we had quite a big captive audience.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was that risk of all the time of going home on your own on the night time at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm back up again. By the time I've driven home, which was like over an hour away to get home, I then got into bed, got up again at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and another hour back.
Yeah.
Somewhere in between all that, I've got to get to the bank, and carrying all this cash around with you all the time. It's because most of it was obviously cash. So I mean, you're sort of sometimes carrying like 20 or grand around with you in cash. It was a bloody risk, and it's just, I'd do it again. I know my wife wouldn't. She hated it.
It was an experience, and
Yeah.
I suppose the biggest thing I took from it was realizing that the clients, you think that your clients are your friends because you spend so much time with a lot of the regulars, and they're always in every weekend, or they're always in during the week watching the football, and you're chatting to them and socializing with them. And when something goes wrong and when you leave,
Yep.
you don't hear from them.
No.
They're not your friends. They are literally just clients. And I have very similar same thing with this business. So too many people in this business, this is just my point of view, might be controversial. Too many people in this business have too many of their clients as friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're not your friend, you know? They're not someone you can call up unless it's someone really, really close. They're not someone you can call up and if you've got a problem or if you've got a dilemma, you know, you need to keep your true friends and your business completely separate. I have a couple of clients that I suppose that, you know, I've kind of got close to that are on my personal Facebook, but that is about it. I just know to me, it's a big no. It's just, you have to have that separation.
Yeah, that's why I have two Facebooks. I have one that's my private one for my family and my friends, and then the one that obviously everybody's on mainly is the business one, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I do.
Yeah,
best way to do it, and people know it because the other one we never ever talk about business on it ever. I just make it a policy that we spoke business.
You know, there are some people that have every single client under the sun as a friend, and the minute they express an opinion or they say something,
just
completely wrong.
Yeah. And that's what we've said plenty of time.
Yeah.
As little as a football team.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. Can be easily something like that. And again, we've said it to people. It's, you know, where I've seen people ranting about things, and it's like, you do realize, you know, that is completely open.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't give a toss. And I'm like, but you're there ranting on about clients and, you know, what cars they drive and everything else, and that they're this and they're that and everything else. And it's like, how do you know that your clients aren't watching this? You're doing this on a forum on Facebook, and they're like, but they're not going to be on there. But how do you know?
Yeah, it's a little bit like what I can. I was, I suppose I did it initially. I did it a couple of times initially in my sort of early days. You get a brand new car in from a dealership or a car from a dealership, and you'd post up about it, and you'd say how bad it was, or, you know, oh, look at this, I can't believe this car from a main dealer. And then someone who I do a lot of work for, and he was like, you shouldn't do it. You know, it just doesn't look good. And I thought about it. And then now I see so many people posting about it, and I think, actually he's right, because what you're potentially ruining a relationship you might well be able to have with someone further down the line that you don't have now. But they'll remember that, and they'll go, if a job comes in, no, don't send it to this person. You don't know, but no, we're not going to give it to this person because he slagged us off in the past because of the condition of our cars or something that might have been said before. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
And also, does your customer, if there's a big problem with a car, speak to the customer. And say, can you pop down, have a look? We've got a potential issue with the car. Don't post it all over Instagram. That's just my personal opinion.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's what we do. We just literally inbox the client, send them a video, show them what's wrong. They panic and they're like, what can we do? And it's like, well, come and have a look at it and speak to the dealer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, simple as that. And that's exactly, you know, the way it should be done.
Yeah.
It's one thing you touched on, Pete, when you were just talking a few minutes ago about the amount of hours you're doing.
Yeah.
And it was something that we was talking about at the IDA event.
Yeah.
You work ridiculous amount of hours. I mean, I thought I work a lot of hours, but I mean, I don't know if you wanted to go into it, but it has a bit of an effect on your personal life. Did you want to go down that?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm open not to talk about anything, mate. within reason. yeah, since I've been doing it, I suppose it's killed 2 relationships.
And just on purely the detail of business.
Yeah, because I suppose the person that I was with for a long period of time before that, when I got into this, and I would only work Monday to Friday, finish around about 6 o'clock, and I would work a Saturday. And also, when you sort of trying to grow a brand new business, my view is that you've got to put some effort in. But she, to a degree, didn't really see that. And then when we broke up, there was quite a few snidey comments because I basically worked 7 days a week for 6 months when we broke up. And then it got to like halfway through the year and I decided that I needed a break from doing all this. So I booked 2 weeks off. Well, I booked 2 weeks off. I took 2 weeks off from work and went to Australia for 2 weeks just to have a sort of a reset and escape from everything. Went and saw my auntie for a week and went and saw a very good friend in Perth and then went on to Brisbane to see my auntie for a week and then come home. But she actually sent me a snidey comment like on the day that I was leaving, turned around and saying, "Oh, you can manage to get away for 2 weeks, but you could never take a Sunday off for us." It was like, never worked on a Sunday. So there was always obviously something in the background, and then another relationship caused issues as well with the times that I would do. But I'm very fortunate at the minute that I am with someone that's understanding of the hours. I've kind of like made it a rule set that I generally don't work on a Saturday afternoon. I try to finish around about midday, 1 o'clock on a Saturday. Never work on a Sunday. There is the odd occasion, hold my hands up, that I might have to pick a client's car up on a Sunday, or a client might drop a car off, or he might have to pick it up. But then what I try and do is I try and make something from it. So if we've got to pick a client's car up, we'll go together and we'll go out for the day. And we'll either pick the client's car up first or we'll drop the client's car off. And then we'll go on to somewhere and we'll go out for the day and we'll go for lunch. So we make a day out of it, if that sort of makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she's very understanding. She's, her work is very full on with what she does. So she's often quite tired in the evenings during the week and she does her thing. But we've never sort of stopped. But I'm sure that if my hours got too much, I would probably recognise it, but I think she would, and I'd be able to accept it, that if she turned around and said to me, we need to sort something out about the hours, we would be able to sit down and discuss it and be able to sort something out. But and on a Friday, I see her on a Friday evening, so I try and finish before 6 o'clock on a Friday, so we still have a nice evening together if we want to go out for something to eat, or if we want to have something at home, or just go out, just go for a stroll and go for a drink at a local pub or something. We try to sort of not be in over the weekends, if that sort of makes sense. Sometimes you have to because you're just knackered and you both just want to do nothing. But we do try to do stuff. But yeah, she's very understanding.
Yes. So is that more of you've changed how you was doing it because the business has kind of grown into a stable business, or is it more you've learned from the past? And
I would say it's probably a bit of both. It's probably a case of that because I've moved from fully mobile just over 2 years ago into a unit, but although I still go out doing mobile stuff, but I would say a lot of my mobile stuff that I do is maintenance, is purely looking after clients' cars that I've detailed. So I go out on a regular basis and they're in the diary for like the whole year. So every Tuesday morning I go and see one particular client. Every Tuesday afternoon I go and see another client. So, but then I'll be finished by sort of 3:30, 4 o'clock. But instead of me going home and putting my feet up, I know that I've got a car in the unit, so I'll come to the unit and I'll do like 3 or 4 hours, 5 hours at the unit, and then I'll go home. Unfortunately, I'm one for not saying no to a client, literally very rarely. If it's a new client, I will give them an honest date and say this is when I can do it. But if it's a good client that has been using me for a long period of time and they say, "Pete, is there any chance?" I'll very rarely ever turn around and say no.
Yeah, it's hard to say no to people.
Yeah. never know when the money's going to stop to do. That's things you've got to take what you can while you can at the end of the day.
Yeah, and also you never know where something's going to lead. You know, a typical example was that a guy from Hertfordshire, I did 6 cars for him. So he bought me 1 car. I think the first car I did for him was his wife's F-Type. I had that for him and detailed that and polished it and coated it and done the wheels, engine bay, roof. And he literally then swapped that for his Wraith. And then I did his Wraith. And then he swapped his Wraith for an old Range Rover, pre-P38, and it was a Japanese import. So we literally went through that with a fine tooth comb. And then we've done some other cars for him, did his little Fiat 500, Riva. And then, you know, I haven't heard nothing from him for like 18 months. And then lo and behold, yesterday, he's going away mid-September. Can I take his Discovery and can I do everything that he's doing to his Discovery while he's away? So, you know, try and slot that in now with everything else that's already booked in.
Hey. Yeah.
He's like, can you pick it up? And yes, he's in Hertfordshire, but, you know, I'll probably sort something, or, you know, might go out for the day with the missus and one of us drive there and with both of us, and then we'll drive the other car back at the same time, go out for the day somewhere different in Hertfordshire, you know, getting old, but we've got National Trust membership. So we've got to go somewhere like that for the day and then pick it up on the way home or something, you know, it's just.
Make the most of it.
Nebworth House will do. It's a good place. You've been there.
Yeah, there you go there. Yeah, never been there.
Yeah, it's good. It's worth it. Nebworth House. It's quite nice, to be fair. Good day out, good grounds, quite nice. Done a lot of car shows there.
Yeah.
Be worth it, definitely.
Do you work just by yourself then, Pete?
Yeah.
Have you not thought or looked at taking someone on?
Oh, touchy subject. I have had a couple of people that have come on to learn for me to train the way that I want people to work. And yeah, it's ended up either starting on their own or doing their own thing, or it's not worked out. So it's very hard. I mean, I would say if I was just doing balloting, I would probably get someone in probably at the drop of a hat, because I would just farm them off all to the new clients. Maybe new inquiry, they would just go to the new clients. So they were the first person that they saw, they'd go out. But I think it's a lot harder when people say, oh, you need to get someone in. I think it's very hard when you've got clients that you've dealt with for years, and it's not so much the work that they think, it's you.
Yeah.
You know, they buy into you because they've dealt with you, they've used you for years. You're the person that they associate the work with. Potentially might work with some clients, but, you know, I do have some clients that are just, they want everything right. They don't want any aggro. They don't want any inconvenience. And if I did start sending someone out to those particular clients, if there was an issue, they'd be like, Pete, don't bother sending him ever again. So all of a sudden it's become a bit complicated. I don't have masses of stuff on the road, but it's repetitive, and it's constantly repetitive. As I said, it's, you know, every 2 weeks, or a guy that I see every week. So when you start putting stuff like that into the calendar for the whole year, it doesn't take long before your weeks start filling up, and that's before you've even booked in anything big.
Yeah.
You know, you see, I had this discussion with and it's probably my own fault, but like we had this discussion with Dave Reed when we was at the SV day, and he said that he was booked out, you know, this was back then, and he said he's booked out and he's booking for October. And I said, that's great. And I went, you know, but how much work do you do in that physical week? You know, he's like, oh, I'll book in one big detail and maybe 1 or 2 maintenance jobs. And I'm like, okay, but I'll be on the road 3 or 4 times in a day, or 3 or 4 days in that week, and I'll have like 2 big jobs in at the unit. So my workload is like 3 or 4 times bigger. So if I booked my clients in 1 job a week, yeah, I'd probably be pushing November now if I wanted to. But realistically, I'm booking mid-October, but that's with 2 big jobs a week, or numerous amounts of day visits at clients, spending all day at clients looking after their cars, and then still doing stuff in the evenings, or going out to people during the day and then coming back, or coming in at 5 o'clock in the morning and doing hours at the unit first before you then go out on the road and then come back. So it's, yeah, but that's purely through my choice. really.
Yeah, it is. It's like you say, it's hard finding somebody. I mean, we had it when we were on the road, and Carolyn was going out doing stuff, and she was with another employee on the road in her van, going out doing stuff. And this one customer who was quite a wealthy guy, had all sorts of vehicles, Enzos, and all sorts of stuff. And the other guy left because his father became ill, and I then went out with Carolyn, and the guy was actually quite concerned because he didn't know who I was, because he'd never actually met me. He'd only ever spoke to me on the phone.
Yeah.
Never seen me, didn't know who I was. And he was one of these where, of course, I went up and he was sort of stamping his feet on the ground, was like, you can't use my water. You can't use my electric. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. They've done that for the last 2 years. Use your water and use your electric. What's the problem?
Yeah.
And I then just spoke to his wife, and she's like, no, it's okay. You can do it. He's ranting and raving at the door. They can't. And I thought, well, this is just not going to get along very well. So in the end, he was one of those where he wouldn't come and talk to us. He was relaying everything through his wife, and eventually came and spoke to us. And he actually turned around to me straight away, and he just said, if you hadn't come with her, I wouldn't have had you here. He said, because I didn't know who the hell you were handling my cars. I got millions of pounds worth of cars in the garage. I didn't know who the hell you were, just coming to my premises to do my cars. And I didn't know who you were. Where's the usual guy? And I'm like, well, he's left. But you've met Carolyn for the last 2 years. I know, but I've never met you. But you spoke to me on the phone every week. Doesn't matter. I've never met you. So it is a difficult one.
Yeah, and I think if you took someone on and they're out on the road, I think every so often you have to go back out with them.
Yep.
Necessarily to check their work, but to work with them, and so the customer can still see you again. And if there are any potential issues, is everything okay? Is he performing all right? Is there anything that we need to do or tweak? And if they're happy, then fine. But I think every so often you still need to go out, and you have to have that interaction with clients.
Yeah, definitely. And with us, it's like we went on for another 7-8 years with the guy after that, even with one company going under, and we then working through another company he had, and vice versa. And it's just, but we actually became, at the time, what I thought, like you said earlier, friends.
Yeah.
But no, when things decided to end, you never saw them again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simple as that. And it's just, they're your friends because I think it's maybe you're servicing their needs at the time.
Yeah, 100%.
I think basically you're removing a problem for them. You're resolving that problem. They're paying a fee to have that problem resolved. And as soon as they are done with your services, that's it.
That's it. Yeah, you won't hear from them again. Yeah.
No, that's exactly what happened. With some clients, and they then decided, they were going to move to a different area. Don't worry, we'll use you. We'll use you.
No.
And it's just how it is. And they're like, don't worry, we've become real good friends. No, even the amount of times you went round to the house, you sat and had coffee with them and got to know the kids were born and everything. You still, at the end of it, it's like
still paid. You're still paid high help. That's all you are.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a very difficult one, as you say. It's if you were doing balloting, like you say, it's a totally different story. But when you're doing what you're doing, and you've got all these regular clients all the time, it's very difficult trying to get somebody else to come in.
Yeah, and it's like, 2 weeks ago, I took my partner's nephew out with me, and he's 13. And he's basically, his dad had asked, he said, is there any chance you can take him out with you for the day? Some holidays, his mates are all off. We haven't gone anywhere in a minute. So he's a little bit bored. He's very outgoing anyway. So he said, would you be able to take him? And I said, yeah, sure, not a problem. We had a day booked. We went to Wentworth, and they were supposed to do one of the first X5Es that was in the country that she had last year, and a Porsche Macan Turbo that we look after. And then the next house would have been in Bearwood Park, which is sort of the other side of Weybridge. So another nice estate. G63 and a Ferrari F8 Tributo. So they're all maintenance. And bless him, poor thing. We got there and she said, oh, it's just a BMW today because we haven't used the Porsche in 2 weeks. And I'll be honest, if she'd used it once, she would have said clean it.
Yeah.
Because they're that type of family, very nice South African family, not into wasting time. If you've come out, you've made the effort, do it.
Yep.
We don't care, we'll still pay you. Hadn't used it, so there's no point in even touching it. So he was a little bit disappointed about it. So that's all right. So we'll go, we'll go to the next place. How many people get to work on a Ferrari in your first day? We got there, we did the G-Wagon, and the Ferrari was in the garage at the house, and there was builders all working in front of it with cement all over the floor and everything like that, so we couldn't get it out.
Oh.
I was like, so by that time, he was home by 1:30, having a coffee with his mum and dad, and I was like, pretty sorry, mate, but sometimes that's just how it goes. But
Yeah.
paid him for his morning's work, he put a shift in, and it just gives him an insight as to, I said to him, and like, people will probably disagree with me, and I just said to him, work, he's a clever kid, and I just said, work hard at school, get some good grades, because you don't want to be washing cars when you're like 40. I know it's we're not washing cars, but it's
not easy.
No,
it's not easy. It takes its toll on health, I can assure you.
Yeah.
It's quite funny. We was having a conversation not so about a week ago or so. Where I am, there's two other companies that are around car care, so they both do wheel refurbishments, but two totally different companies work together. And it was chatting about selling businesses. Not that I am thinking about selling up or anything.
Yeah,
I can't remember. It came up like someone said, "Oh, it works out so many years value is what you sell it for," or something like that. And I made the comment of, well, my business would be worth nothing without me.
100%.
And it's the same sort of thing as what you've just said, Pete. It's realistically, it's your design by detail is Pete by detail, really.
Yeah. There was a guy. There was a not just sort of name drop, but there was a question that was asked on PVD basically, and it was someone that had asked the question and said, what's my business worth? I've heard, or my accountant said to me, it's 3 times my turnover. That's what my business is worth. And I was like, how do you put a price? How do you work that out then? Because if you're going to sell your business and you sell your van and your little black book of your customers and everything like that, those customers are not obliged to go to the new person.
No.
They could just turn around and say, well, sorry, no, I'm not interested no more. Or no, I'm just going to look for someone else. Just because you've bought that business doesn't give anybody your business is worth realistically. And if someone takes it over, your business is worth what your equipment is, or what your, what you've got on site. I don't own the building, so there's no value in that. I don't own the van because it's on lease. It's just what's the stuff that's inside. That's what my business is worth.
Which ain't that much, is it really? When you actually start breaking it down,
we're not the type of, unless you're a huge business that's turning over a lot of money, like Topaz or MVN or something like that. Realistically, those people are never going to get bought out because they're worth so much money themselves individually anyway.
Yeah.
So and again, I think Topaz and MVN, I suppose, are a little bit different because, again, it's the name. A lot of people want to go there because they want the Topaz name of the car that's been done at Topaz, so they want the Topaz name, but still essentially do a lot of the same as what everybody else does.
Yeah, exactly the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
Detail cars or wash cars, as you say. It's as simple as that, isn't it? That's what everybody does at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes back to the whole thing, though. It's like what blows my mind when people travel to me, and I know shops between me and this customer that I look up to them, sort of thing, and they're not coming because of the work. They're coming for you, Pete, or they're coming for you, Richard. It's not.
Yep.
I don't think the work's a big thing anymore. I think it's more the experience you can give.
Yeah, I would say that, judging by my sort of traction or my conversion rate of work, it like 95% of my work is all through either word of mouth or it's repeat custom. New customers changing their cars or they want something different being done. A lot of clients that I get, or a lot of people that message me, or if I get anybody that messages me through Facebook, it is a 0 conversion rate. I don't know what it is, but the people through Facebook just do not pay money.
Yeah.
So I've accepted that a long time ago. So there's no point in me ever branding or doing anything or sponsorship or anything on Facebook because it's never converted. In terms of like new inquiries through emails that people have seen my website or something like that, it's very low. And I think that's because generally those people were the people that will just shop around and it's all about price. You know, what can you do? What will this cost me for X, Y, Z? And you break it down, you give them a long email, you price it all up for them. And they've probably gone to like 6 or 7 different people. And they'll probably pick either middle of the road or one of the cheapest ones they can find, or they want it done next week and just don't want to wait.
I couldn't agree any more with you.
Yeah, no,
and that's one thing that really, really ticks me off. When you spend the time to write a bloody email to somebody and you don't even get a thank you back.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I had, I suppose the biggest one I have, not headache, the one that annoys me a little bit, I suppose, is the one where you get people that turn up on your doorstep, or they contact you and they say, you know, I've bought this car, or I've got this car and I've got some issues with it, I'm not happy with it. You say, okay, would you like to pop down one evening or come down during the day? We can have a look at it. And you spend an hour with them, go around the car, assess the car, point things out to them, talk to them, find out what they want. Some people, they say, well, I want the wheels refurbed and I want all the stone chips touched in and I've got a few dents. And you can say, well, we can sort all that in-house and I can do you a proper itemized email with everything broken down with all the prices, time scales, what it's going to cost. And you go through all the coatings, you give them the brochures, they go away, they have a read of the brochure, you know, see what the differences are. I've educated you, but you have a read and see what each coating benefits from. And what you think you would benefit from. If you're unsure, then ask the questions and you go through everything with them and you give them all the prices and then that's it, dead. And you've wasted hours on that time. Yeah. And they, all I say to people, you know, all I would like to say people to say is, thanks very much for putting in the effort and the time, but you know, I kind of think that the prices of or what's been quoted is more than what I can afford. And then I'll come back and say, well, okay, let's try and work something out then. What can we do? What is your realistically your budget then? What can we do that's within your budget that we can try and, you know, fulfill your needs for that budget? But I'm not going to say that I'm still going to do the same amount of work for that price, but can we work something out? Can we try and give you something for your budget? But, you know, when people don't even bother responding, it's very easy these days just to, you know, read the message, don't bother replying.
We get it all the time with people. They take photographs through car windows and because they're looking at buying a car and they'll like, we've got the car. How much is it going to cost to sort this out? And it's a photograph through a window and you can see a for sale sign as well. You can see the price in it in a reflection. And you give them the thing and it's like, ideally, can we actually see pictures of the inside of the vehicle rather than through the glass because you got reflection? We need to see the real problem. Oh, well, I haven't picked it up yet. But you said an hour ago you had the car.
Yeah.
And then you get accused of calling them a liar.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you just can't win. And it's again, it is very frustrating. And the same, you spend all that time dealing with a client, you know, sorting out a quote, you know, and you just never hear anything again. One thing you mentioned, Pete, a brochure. Do you actually give them like a brochure then? Because I mean, like when we started, I say not when we started, but when we started doing a lot of sort of full-on detailing work here in this area it's been 18 years ago. What we did, because we were one of the first Zymal authorized detailers in the UK, we had a complete brochure made of everything about all the different sort of programs that we had, you know, from like the beginning detail right through to the concourse detail. And it was in a nice full color book. It was about 12 to 14 pages. And what we did was we went into some of the most expensive areas around our area and we literally just put them through, almost like a leaflet drop, put them through everybody's door. And everybody that rang us actually said, this week we've had no end of people dropping leaflets through our door for valeting, but yours was the professional. We want you to come and do our car. And out of, I would say, maybe 30 people that rang us, only 2 of them actually asked me how much I wanted for the work. Everybody else said, just come and do it. And whatever it is, just charge me. But it was that brochure.
I don't give a brochure out to sorts. It's should have said really, it's more of a brochure about the individual coating. So whether it's IGL, you know, we have a brochure that opens right up and it's got each coating in it, what it does, the differences between the coatings and that sort of stuff. And then I can guide them on prices. So it's kind of putting the ball back in the customer's court.
Sure.
It's like saying, yeah, like, oh, well, you know, and then they come, that's what I said to you originally, when you about giving the customer what they want, and they look at it and they say, well, I think I only need a 2-year coating because I think I'm going to swap this car in 18 months.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, there's no point in me going for a 3-year coating. Okay, it's fine. You know, we still got to do all the preparation work, but it just means that, you know, your coating cost of what it's going to cost for me to apply it and put it on and buy it is going to be cheaper for you. But then they go away and then they're happy because they haven't been ripped off. They haven't had their tractors pulled down.
Yeah.
That little bit of trust you just gain, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, ages ago, well, not ages ago, earlier on, last year I did in March last year I did a 745e, so you know, like the hybrid big BMW. And he was like, you know, I want a new car and I want it detailed and I want coatings and I want this and I want that. And I said, okay. And he wanted all the leather protected, and I said, have you got family? And he said, no, it's just me and my partner. I was like, so I was a little bit stumped as to why he bought a big 7 Series anyway, just him and his partner. And he said, no, it's just me and my partner. And I was like, you know, just out of interest, why do you want the leather protected? And he said, well, I don't know, I just thought it would be worth doing. And I said, you know, I would advise you with something like that, you know, you're going to clean it and maintain it yourself instead of spending the money on the interior protection. And I went, we'll still protect the mats and stuff like we do as a standard, but let's do the alloys. Let's take the alloys off. Let's protect the suspension parts. Let's protect the alloys. Let's coat the alloys and the brake discs. And I went, you'll have a much harder time trying to clean alloys that are absolutely filthy or brake dust or something like that than trying to clean the interior of a car.
Yeah.
You know, because we all know, and you know, Rich, that a lot of the protections that go on leather, a lot of leather's semi-porous anyway, to a degree.
Yep.
So if they've missed something when they're cleaning it, or they've got something on the leather, if it's not got off within a short period of time, it's not coming off anyway.
No.
And a lot of these coatings are only give you a window of opportunity.
Sure.
To be able to take, you know, what spillage or what's happened to the leather off anyway. So it's only a small period of time, or a window. That's how I try and sell it.
Yeah.
And when they say, oh, can you coat my leather? Oh, yeah, you know, it's supposed to be that this will be for a 2-year product. And I was like, well, it might do, but it's not going to last 2 years on the driver's side, because you're going to be getting in and out of that car how many times a day, you know, moving against the bolster or shifting around so it wears down quicker. And it only gives you a window if there is a spillage, or if you get something, or if you rub a biro against it. It's only give you a short period of time to be able to get that off. If you don't, then you're into a different period. So so that's how I, you know, as I said, it's about interaction, speaking to the customer, finding out exactly what they want. And that's a little bit different. I'm going to say a little bit different, but I think that's where, touchy subjects, but that's where I think all these training people that have popped up, you know, training people on a driveway and all that sort of stuff, that's where it's all kind of going out of hand, because people are just going out there thinking they can just do it, jump on with someone that's been going for a year or 2 years on the driveway, and they can go and spend a day with them and pay 300 or 400 quid with someone to be trained up, and all of a sudden they're a detailer. In a day they have learned how to wash a car properly, detail it, and do all the interior, and they're polishing and wet sanding and then ceramic coating all in a day. It's crazy.
Not possible.
I think that just that I don't think it's just this industry actually, but I do think training is it's a good way of getting money out of people.
It seems to be more at the minute, but I don't know if it's because of COVID or what, but it seems to be there's so many people, that newbies or young people, that are offering training, you know, and they got people coming around their house, or they're going to customers and they're spending the day at the customers, and they got people going with them working on customers' cars or someone else's car, and they're just, you know, like, what insurances have they got for a start? I have that person working with them and training them.
Exactly.
And they go away, and then 3 months down the line they have a problem, or they cause a problem, and they go back to them. Technically, that person who's trained them is liable.
Yep, absolutely. Especially if they've told them the wrong information. That's why we have insurance for it. Yeah,
and also, like, my personal belief is, if you're going on a training day, like some of the places I go to, you know, you get given a booklet, or you get given handouts. This is what's going to be in your day. this is what your agenda is going to be. This is what you're going to learn. You know, how do you know? You turn up and get trained by someone on the driveway. Oh yeah, well we just go through all the polishes with you. It's like, well, who's trained you?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these guys just self-taught themselves.
Yeah.
You know, some of the best people in the industry are probably, you know, are self-taught, but they've been in it a lot longer than, you know, the other guys that are just doing it off the driveway. I've got no beef against people that work on the driveway or anything like that, but I just don't see how you can train people on a driveway. And some people twist it and go, oh, it's the best way to learn. If you can do everything on the driveway, then you can do it in the studio. And it's just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we had it with a ex-employee. He was only, I think it was about 19, 20, something like that. He left our employment because he wasn't wonderful at doing the job. He'd left his previous employment because he wasn't wonderful at doing the job either, which is in a very similar game to what we're in. And he then set up doing the same thing as what we were doing and started offering training. And the amount of people that actually got ripped off was unbelievable because, again, he didn't know what he was talking about, but he had the gift of the gab.
Yeah.
He was very good with talking to people, and that's what sort of lured them in.
Yeah.
And when it came round to it that things went wrong, he couldn't answer it.
Yeah.
And that, to me, isn't anybody that should be out there training people. You know, it's just because they're not professional enough. You know, they've not had the experience of how to correct things when they do go wrong. You know, it's like if you're starting to go through, if you're starting to see a scratch, you're going to know how far you can go with that. You know, you're going to know how far you can get oxidized paint back and stuff like that. Whereas somebody else is just going to pick that machine up and they're just going to ram it on a paintwork, and before you know it, they're going to burn through. And when you start looking at the types of new roofs, polishes, and pads like Adam and I found out on the IDA Open Day we had, it doesn't take all that long to go through paint, you know, on a bonnet that had even been a repainted bonnet with that as well, with it, you know, because the amount of sort of different readings we were getting was significant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
On that day. And it's, you know, and it didn't take all that long to go through that paint. And that again comes down to experience, and that takes years to get.
Yeah, you can't teach all that sort of stuff in like
Not in a day. No.
And then expect people to be able to, you know, I suppose it's all little things like when you see people post up a scratch and they're like, oh yeah, wet sand it, polish it out. And it's like, have you actually tried to polish it out first?
Yeah.
You know, you're compromising so much of that paintwork first before you've even tried to polish it.
Yep.
It's like people post up and say, oh, I want to get rid of orange peel, or I've got a client that wants me to get rid of orange peel. Why do they want you to get rid of orange peel? It's not, the issue isn't going to be now necessarily about you sanding that whole car or sanding panels back and polishing it back to get rid of the orange peel. It's going to be in 6 months' time or a year's time or 2 years' time when there's some defects on that car again, and then you've then got to polish that car again, or someone else to polish that car, and all of a sudden they've got almost nothing to play with.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they burnt through.
Yeah.
All because someone's decided that their best course of action is that, well, customers want orange peel removal, and we're just going to wet sand the life out of it and polish it back.
Yeah.
Like, did you speak to the customer and did you guide them on all this and say you might have some potential issues further down the line? Probably not.
No. Yeah, it's a lot to consider, isn't it, at the end of the day? And again, I think it's something we talk about to technicians. It's something you mentioned at the beginning. It's that honesty part of it. It's being upfront. It's guiding the client, finding the information out, telling them what's going to happen, what could happen, what might not happen, how it's going to look. And it's just guiding that client right the way through from the beginning and just giving them the full story, isn't it? And that's what it all boils down to. And
it's not experience-wise, it can be a hard industry, but you don't have to make it hard.
No.
It's like, I have 3 types of polishing. It's very simple to me. I do an enhancement, which just literally adds gloss to a car. And then I do a minor correction, which is a cut and a refine. And then I do a major correction, which is where you're trying to chase as many defects out of that car as possible and at unlimited time. So it takes me as long as it takes me. And I won't give you a price on that. I might be able to give you a guide. And that's all it is. I don't get where you see people that do an enhancement, but they do a cut and then they still got to refine because they put holograms in it. It's like, but you're not doing enhancement.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing a cut and a refine to a degree, and you're giving the customer a lot more than they should be. So everybody's going to then book in and go, I'll just have an enhancement because you're actually going to give me more than what I'm paying for. So you're never going to sell the next service.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So with the major one then, Pete, where it's obviously not a price, how do you get on with that? Do the clients find that acceptable? Obviously, do most of them say, have you got a guide before you begin?
I think it's about, like, again, it's, you know, either going out and seeing the client or talking to the client. The last, I don't do tons of major correction, basically, because how many people realistically want absolutely perfect paint when a minor correction on so many cars that are metallic is absolutely fantastic, because metallic will still hide defects. It's got solid paints where you got an issue. And I suppose the last one I did was an Aston Martin for a guy, and it'd been in storage for 2 years, but it'd been parked outside, and they'd left it outside. And it was about just over 2 years ago when we had that absolutely baking heat, not this year, and they left it outside, and birds had pooed all over it, and it etched into all the paintwork, and there was loads of scratches all over it. And he was really disappointed with how the car had come out of storage. So I got recommended to him, and I went out to it and I said, look, this is not going to be just a cut and a refine. This is going to be, I'm going to be chasing stuff. So I can give you a rough price. I can tell you where you are with coatings and stuff. But, you know, in terms of what it's going to be in terms of polishing, I can only give you a rough price of where I might be. You know, I might need the car for a week. I might need the car for 10 days. I might need the car for 2 weeks. I can only give you an estimate of, once I start getting into it, of where we are with it. And I think if you're honest with people, like I say, if you're honest with people and open, you know, and give them an idea, or if you get partway into the job and it's becoming a lot more of a bigger job, phone them up and tell them, you know, I know, I appreciate we come out, but we've looked at it and we started working on it, and now we're having some potential problems, or we're chasing stuff and it's not coming out. So do you want us to continue? And it might get quite costly, or do you want us to cut back and just do a minor correction? And I think you'll still be happy with a minor correction. You know, all your major defects will be gone, but there still might be stuff there that you might catch at certain angles or certain lights. And a lot of people, you know, I was originally doing a lot of enhancements, and now it seems to be that it's more because I've sort of scaled things back and made it clear to people that a lot more stuff is coming through as minor correction. You know, because some of the stuff you just have to say, especially solid colors, you've got to cut, and you're going to induce marring, or you're going to induce some defects, and you're going to do some hazing. So you've got to refine. That's not, to me, that's not an enhancement. That's still a minor correction.
I mean, you do things very, very similar to I do, and I absolutely hate it when people want to go as best as we can. And it's not something that we do very often at all. I'd probably say maybe 3. Top of my head, I can think of 3 or 4 maybe.
Yeah.
But no, that minor correction, living the dream on that.
Yeah.
Just keep it simple, and it's easier choice for the client at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you put too many options in for people start getting confused, and then you've got to try and justify what's the difference between A, B, C, and D. You've got A and B, and you can say, well, this is the clear difference, or show them some pictures and say, this is what A does and this is what B does. You know,
it's one of the reasons why next year we're cutting one of our courses out. So we're just making it simple. It's that and that.
That's it.
And that's exactly what we're doing, because we've sort of learned over the last sort of 3 years, one particular course that we're cutting out, which we'll announce when we say what we're doing. It's going to be cut out purely and simply because hardly anybody's taken it, because they either want A or C. You know, they're not going for B anymore, so it's just pointless having it.
Yeah,
I know the minute we cut it out, everybody will want B. Then we've got to try to get them into A or C. It's as simple as that. 'Cause I mean, that's exactly what will happen.
It's always the way.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, what do you think is the next big change in the industry?
Or do you hope?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. I suppose my hope is, through everything that I've seen more, I suppose, obviously during COVID and just before COVID, I suppose the biggest thing that I would love to see is some form of regulation. You know, purely and instantly why, you know, I've kind of not joined the IDA, because I joined the IDA before, but kind of pushing more for stuff, and I sort of tried to promote myself and say that I've done this and I've done this and I've invested in myself and I've chose to do this course, not necessarily because I don't know, but because I might pick up something that might benefit me and will benefit my clients.
Yep.
You know, I suppose it's a little bit like anything. If you get recommended to someone, it's one thing, but if you're trying to market yourself to potential new clients, they want to put their trust in you. And if they can see that you're making the effort in yourself and you're trying to drive yourself and make yourself better and learn more about lots of stuff, and try to continue to keep growing with your knowledge, then they'll put a trust in you as well to a certain degree. I think there's a lot of people out there that don't train and don't push themselves and don't upgrade or, you know, try and move with the times. Just kind of like happy, just
steady going along.
Yeah.
Not going forward. I mean, it's like, I mean, as you know, we do courses, but I mean, we learn all the time, and we learn all the time from trainees. And it does. I mean, the trainee will come in that's in a totally different sector, and we'll learn something from them, and we'll thank them, and we'll praise them for years, and we'll always mention them when we mention a particular thing that we've learned from them. And we learn from our trainees, believe it or not. And you know, and I'm not frightened to admit it, because we do. I mean, there's all sorts of techniques, there's things we've got now, certain tools and bits of equipment that we use that are used in totally different industries.
Yeah.
That they've mentioned, we use this, and it's worked a dream for our industry, and it's brilliant. And so you've got to learn all the time. And I mean, it's the same with the IDA. It's one of the reasons why we joined is to learn.
Yeah.
And that's what I went on it for, I wanted to learn, because there's people on there that are older than me, that's been in the industry longer than me, and I can learn from them. And even people that haven't been in it longer than me. I mean, you know, like with the IDA meets that we have. And I mean, it's good that you sort of mentioned about the IDA, because that gets us on to our next thing with you about, you know, the meet that you're going to have. But I mean, it's with the IDA weekly, you know, fortnightly things. I mean, I learn stuff all the time, and from various people, and no matter whether that's to do with detailing or leather or anything, you know, you learn all the time various things, and you know, and they're learning from you as well. So it's I think having that thing where you don't shut yourself off from saying, I don't need to learn, and that you do go out and have those courses. We're all learning all the time, because technology changes at the end of the day, and so do products and chemicals.
I mean, I know, like, in terms of, you know, you're saying about what could be the next big thing in the industry. At the minute, I don't see anything personally for me. I don't see what could come in at the minute that could really change the industry. I mean, PPF's the big thing. And what realistically is there that you could do to a car that could protect your car, short of, you know, that's bigger than PPF or that's better than PPF. So I can't see anything at the minute. You know, I can't see how a coating or a product that you can put on a car can better PPF.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe there might be a change in technology in the way that coatings are applied, or something might change in the way that coatings are applied. You might see something like, I don't know, as a gut shot, you might see something like sprayable coatings on cars, maybe something like that. You know, I know you was kind of going down the lines of, like, you know, the sprayable paint that you can have and you can put on cars, and then it peels off and that sort of stuff. Obviously, that's there. So maybe there might be something like that, but I don't know. Honestly, in terms of products or something coming into the market, I can't see what there can be that can change at the minute. I think it's just going to be there or thereabouts, with either you're doing coatings, or you're doing coatings and PPF, or just PPF. I think that's kind of where we are at the minute. I think we will be for a few years.
Yeah, I'm going to say maybe they can perfect PPF so it's not as difficult.
Yeah, maybe.
To make it more of an easier sort of thing.
They have that sprayable one at the minute, which is, you know, at the end of the day, you still have to take panels off and stuff because of panel gaps and that sort of stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah,
what's your view on graphene?
What's my view on graphene?
Yeah,
I wish people would actually market it as to how it was. So it's not graphene, it's graphene infused.
Yeah.
So just put infused and then everybody's clear. It's not hard. You know, you can't put graphene in a ceramic coating. You know, it's what is it? It's graphene. Is it graphene oxide or something?
Something like that.
Something like, it's a byproduct of graphene that goes in that's in the ceramic coating. So I really hope it doesn't go down the route of it's a graphene infused shampoo and it's a
hairdressing.
Yeah, everything, and it's just it doesn't need to be.
I think looking at the way it is, it's going to go that way because it did it with ceramics, didn't it? So I think it's just going to go that way. It goes back to the old days of car waxes, doesn't it? 100% pure carnauba.
Yeah, and it's just
carnauba's harder than concrete, and it's in its virgin form. You know, it's ridiculous.
And it's the whole, you know, I've got a graphene detail spray, and it's probably got 1%, you know, in its ingredients of ceramic or graphene, and you just think to yourself, it's not really going to do anything. You know, there's probably better spray sealants or better products you could use in the market that are probably going to last longer than using something that's graphene. And my personal view is that if you've got a product that you're putting on a car that's a semi-permanent bond like a coating or something like that, I've never been into one of, I've got to use a graphene topper or I've got to use this as a constant topper. Those products are designed to work as they are. If you maintain them properly and you wash that car properly and you every 6 months or once a year, however, depending on the client uses a car, if you do a decontamination wash or a chemical wash or strip it back, or sometimes you might have to do, you know, quite an acidic wash, you know, like some of the products we do with the shampoos, like Garage Therapy do one and Lab Cosmetica do one that will help break down everything that's on the coating and sort of rejuvenate the coating. I don't get the whole, you put a ceramic coating on it and I'm going to use Geon wet coat on it every 2 weeks. Because all you're doing is just constantly changing that surface tension of the ceramic coating that you've put on the car and you've just paid a load of money for to do.
Yep.
No, yeah, I don't get it personally.
No, I'm with you on that one. It's like we're singing off the same hymn sheet, Pete, I think.
So your event you've got in November, just changing the subject there, sorry. You've got the IDA event, haven't you, for the CD and SV?
Yeah, on the Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously with Roops as well. And who's obviously getting involved with all that?
So it's over the weekend of, I'm trying to get this right, I think it's the 13th and 14th of November, Saturday and Sunday. So we've got Alan from AMD Details who's coming down, and he's going to do the Roops certified training on the Saturday. I think we've got up to 10 guys going to come in.
Nice.
So we're going to have some bonnets and some panels and stuff that they're going to work on. As I say, I've not got the biggest unit, so it's not like I could say I could have 20 people here.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be quite a nice closed group of guys. I've got my own little car that if needs be, we can bring a car in and they can practice on or something. And then on the Sunday, we've got an IDA day, which is obviously with Alan again, because he's the RT, he's the trainer, he's a recognised trainer. I know Mark Leddy, give him a shout out, has just got his RT. So congratulations to him. So yeah, Alan's going to be here on the Sunday as well. So we're going to be doing certified detailer and skills verified as well on the Sunday. So I'm guessing that I'll probably give him a hand if need to be with bits and pieces on the Sunday, because obviously we did ours up in Manchester, so we're skills verified. So, you know, if he needs a hand, we can talk him through stuff. And as I say, we've got my car here, so we'll have a car outside, bits and pieces inside. So hopefully it should be a good event. It's not something I've ever done before in terms of hosting, but I think it's, you know, the day that we had at Jordan's, and as you said, the catch-up calls that we have fortnightly, it's actually nice to actually give something back. And yes, people are going to say, oh, you're getting paid for it. And yeah, it's 2 days that, you know, over a weekend that we're going to be working. But I think it's, you know, it helps put me into a slightly different light. And what I would like to be able to do is, you know, some point down the line is to be able to, either if it's a bigger unit or staying where we are, to be able to actually be, I don't know, a centre in the southeast where we offer these services, where we offer this stuff on a 2 or 3 times a year basis. You know, and it could be that we could have 3 days and we have Mark Leddy come down and he does his SFISA certified training. So, you know, I know there's someone in the north that he's going to be doing it with. So at the minute, I don't think there's anybody in the south that's going to do it. So why not have 3 days, and let's do it for 3 days. Let's do the Roots Day, let's do the certified training, and let's have the IDA day, you know, and try and become a bit of a centre for it and offer that in the southeast. And maybe with one of the coatings, or if I go down the route of that, I'm going to be only like literally like try and stay with one coating. Let's try and become you know, a detailing centre for that certified coating. And then when they want to have days to get together, come down, we'll host it. You know, I think it just promotes you and it helps the industry and it helps other people. Other people have helped me in the time, so why not give a bit back sometimes?
And the guys that are coming on the course, are they a mix of people that are very experienced, or is it sort of all new people?
I don't know about who are on the Roots Day, to be perfectly honest, because that all gets booked through Alan.
All right, okay.
So I know I think he said he's got 6 guys, I think, so far on the Roots. It might well be more at the minute, I don't know. So if you're interested, then obviously you need to get in touch with Alan at AMD Details to find out about that. I know there's a few guys that have already booked on to do their SV for the Sunday. There's a couple of local guys from here that have got their CD already. And they weren't able to get up, obviously, to Manchester. So, yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. As I say, it doesn't necessarily always... Becoming CD and SV isn't going to bring work through your door.
No.
Let's be honest about what it is. It's about making you stand out, about making your customers aware that you're willing to put in the time, the effort, you know, to be able to say, you know, we've been assessed by some of the best that are in the industry, to say that not that we know everything, but that we work safe, that we're sensible with what we do, and we've got knowledge in the industry. And some people will say that, I don't need to show that to my customers, and that's fine. If that's what works for you, that's what works for you. But for me personally, it's about even still making my customers aware that I'm constantly willing to put time and effort and money into invest into myself.
Yeah, it boils down to that thing again, doesn't it? Train them, continue to train them. And it's you know, if you've got clients, they're going to be, I feel my clients would be very happy if I could prove to them that I had gone and learned more things.
Yeah.
You know, and that I'd bettered myself, because at the end of the day, you're bettering yourself to help them at the end of the day, so they feel more reassured while you're working on their vehicles.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know, it's down to the education again, you know, and that continued development.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Just before we go into our famous closing question, do you want to... it's not very often we give people a chance to sell stuff, Pete. So you take yourself on. You're probably one of the first that we've allowed. Just talk quickly about the couple of things that you offer with your design by detail on, as in the wheel stand and.
Oh, the wheel stand, the one I've still got to send out to you.
Well, I didn't want to mention it, but
that's why you mentioned it.
I have this thing about, it's not necessarily about something might already be out there, but to me, it's about making your workflow easier or your process easier. And I had an instance, probably loads of people have probably gone through it, and I had a customer's car in, it was a Porsche. I took all the wheels off, cleaned all the wheels, coated the wheels, and I put them all back on. And then they picked it up, and all of a sudden it's got TPMS warning lights up, saying that it then needs to do a relearn. So you've then got to go through it. You've then got to explain to them, oh, it's nothing to worry about, but you need to drive it for like 10, 15 miles, and it needs to relearn the tyre pressure sensors on each corner, because you've taken them all off and you put them all back on the wrong, chances are you put them back on the wrong corners. So I just sort of designed something, or come up with an idea that I wanted to have a stand where, you know, you take a cap off and it's an individual colour cap, and you put it onto that specific wheel, and then you take the wheel off and you put the bolts in the stand, and it's got an alloy wheel locking nut. So that those bolts and that colour valve that you put on that wheel goes back onto that corner. So you've got green for near side front, red for offside front. So that wheel will go back onto that corner. That's why I purely designed that. Just keeps everything neat and tidy as well. And then I was using a wheel coating stand, you know, the Poker Premium one. And I do a lot of high-end stuff. So like big wheels, big alloys, and you put them on and it just topples off. You know, you put it on the stand, and because they're very, you know, heavy front-facing alloys, they just topple forward. So you kind of like have to hold it and turn it and coat it. And because it's got the support bar at the back, you can't get to the back properly to coat the back. So you might have to take it off and then turn it around. So I just kind of shot a few ideas to a few people and come up with some acrylic stands. So it's actually a lot deeper. So instead of it being, I think the Poker one is about 320 mil or something long, ours is 450 mil long. So you can easily put a Porsche Cayenne turbo e-hybrid alloy on, which are one of the biggest ones, on it, and it sits on the rollers really nice. It's, you know, the heavy duty rollers, and you can coat the front face and you can coat the back face because it's got no upright. So it was just something that it was more because I designed it for me, and I wasn't really bothered about how much it would cost, because it would just make my life simple every time I wanted to coat a tire or coat an alloy. So that was where I was at. And then I've just made a few and sold a few to people. And to be honest, the ones that I've made and the stands that I've made have pretty much gone. And unless I got like another 10 people to say, yes, I'll have an alloy, you know, the nut stand or the alloy bolt stand, I probably wouldn't, I'm not going to go and make 10 for them just to sit on the shelf. Yeah. If I get people that are interested, then I would take them and I'll take their details and I'd then do another run of 10. If they sell, I'll take a punt if something like 5 or 6 people got in touch. So I wouldn't mind having keeping a couple on the shelf, but it's more sort of made to order really. That's where we were with the alloy stands really, and now we've got everything in place for the alloy stands. You know, some of the bits took a lot longer than to produce because the bars in between were actually made by an engineering firm which was a couple of doors down from me, so he had to get the bar in and cut them down and drill and tap them and everything like that for us. So nothing's ever a 5-minute process, and the end pieces are acrylic, they're 5 mil thick black acrylic with a sticker on. So it's not a 5-minute thing when you just want to make a small batch, because somebody walks in and says, I want 2,000 units of something, they're going to prioritize that over your 10 acrylic pieces. So it's taken its time. But
what sort of prices they run out at?
The alloy wheel bolt stand, so the one for all the bolts and the caps and stuff, I think it's around about the £55 mark. And the alloy wheel stand, I think we were doing them about 95, I think it was. And if they need sending, then it's plus postage. So we tried to go in a bit cheaper than Poker.
Yeah.
But as I said, I purely designed it because I was I don't really do small cars.
Yep.
Or say normal cars really, like 17-inch wheels and that sort of stuff. A lot of my stuff's all the big stuff. So that's why I was just getting sick and tired of it really. So I designed it more for myself.
Reasonable cost though, isn't it, for what it's doing?
I'm not making really anything out of it.
Yeah.
Again, it was for me that I designed it for myself, and a few other people said, oh, well, that looks really good, I'll have one. So, okay, we can pretty much have it at cost. I'm never going to be a millionaire because I don't like taking money out of people, really, to be honest.
It is a nice looking stand, and I'm not hinting, but I am looking forward to getting mine. I'm actually doing some wheels tomorrow. I wanted to try it on, but
I will get it up to you, mate.
Don't worry about it. I know you're a busy man. So we have a closing out question. I know you listen to the show, so you've probably heard it before. If you could tell yourself one piece of information when you first started in your business, what would it be now?
I thought about this quite a lot, and it's a bit of a tricky one, really. The only thing that I probably would say that was something that I sort of said about earlier was that if you're going to do it, then just do it properly from the outset. Not try and do things sort of half-hearted and also I think that about be honest with a customer. If it's something that you can't do, or you're not confident in doing, be honest and say, it's not something that I can offer at the minute for you, but I could, potentially get someone to do it for you or something like that. I know you might run the risk of sort of losing a client to that person, but I think your client would rather you be honest than take something on and fail or cause a problem further down the line. So I suppose my biggest thing would be that when I started out, if I could, start again, I wouldn't change how I started, being mobile, 6 days a week, all weathers. You've got to do what you've got to do to sort of survive. But yeah, I would probably say that if you're going to do something, then do it properly. And I probably maybe would have gone on some more courses earlier on when I first started out, to learn a bit more and try and progress my business a bit quicker. But I think I'm kind of making up for that now. If there's a course or something that comes up that might give me a little bit of insight or an interest, then I go on it. Or I ask people, can we do this? Or is there a way that I can learn about this? For me, social media is a big thing. I don't understand it properly. And I'd love to be able to learn about it and find out exactly how it works and how it ticks, how the algorithms work, and using the same hashtags all the time. Does that really work, or do you constantly need to keep changing it, or that posting right time? Yeah, and people that know about it don't want to talk about it. They don't want to tell you. They don't want to give away the secret. So it's So it'd be good if there was someone that could put a hand up and say that we could do something, and maybe we could get quite a few people together and we could have a day where we could have someone that could teach us about it all, because I'm sure there's probably enough of us that would like to know about it.
Definitely. I for one.
Yeah. So
it would be good learning how it all does tick. Like you say, it's doing the same hashtags. Does it work? Do you have to change them? You see a lot of companies that use one or two the same, but then they're changing all the time.
Yeah. And I think it is. Yeah, I know there's people that buy followers and all that sort of stuff, and they've never been into that. And I would say that my Instagram is organic.
Yep.
But there's some people that have got 10,000 followers, and 9,000 of them are probably all different valeters and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, well, they're not going to ever bring you any work.
No,
you're never going to. They might say, "Oh, your work's amazing" or anything like that, but you don't get any traction from them or anything like that. So it's a difficult one, but I'm quite controversial. I'm not one for really blowing smoke up everybody's bums. I'm not going to follow 10,000 other valeters and just keep constantly posting about them or anything like that. I have the people that I respect in the industry, the people that I will follow, or the people that I'll talk to. And that's about it, really. It's just focus on your own business.
Yeah, it's customers you want, isn't it? Not valeters at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah. Focus on your business. Your business brings you the money through the door, brings you the work, pays your bills. Constantly bragging up or talking up other valeters doesn't bring you anything.
No.
And I don't get this whole constantly talking about what cars you're working on, or saying, "Oh, I'm going to be doing this car, or going to be doing this car, or doing this car." It doesn't bring you any more money. The job is a job. And unfortunately, I would say that I'm very much of a mindset that, we get to fortunate to get some work on some really nice cars. But at the end of the day, you then become into a mindset that once the car's in, you started work on it, it then becomes a process. It then becomes the job.
Yep.
You're then not focused on the car. You're focused on what you're doing.
Yep.
So it's, I don't tend to get too excited about working on a specific car or certain cars or anything like that. As I say, we do get some nice stuff through, but it's more about making sure that the customer's happy. Anything like that, really.
Definitely. Good. So, social media things. How do people get hold of you? How do they find you?
I have Facebook, but I can't remember the last time I ever updated my Facebook, to be honest, because I don't link my Instagram to my Facebook. My Instagram is purely my business name, so it's Design by Detail, all one word. We have a website, which is www.designbydetail.co.uk. So it's everything's really generic. I do have do I have? Yeah, I have LinkedIn, but I wouldn't know how to use LinkedIn. People say that that's a very good networking tool, but again, don't understand it. So I have that. If anybody wants to, send me an email or anything, or our details are on the website. We have a unit that people can come by if they need to, but the only thing we do say is that they get in touch.
Book an appointment.
Yeah, because we're not here every single day.
Yeah.
We do have clients, as I say, that we go out to and we service. So we might be here in the morning for a couple of hours, or we might be here in the afternoon, or we might be here all day. Like today, we've been here all day. But tomorrow we're out on the road for 2 private clients. So, we won't be back here till 5, 6 o'clock, probably in the evening. So that's how people get hold of us.
Cool. Good.
Brilliant.
Excellent. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That was Pete from Design by Details, with quite a rather nice graphic device for his logo as well, which I like. There's quite a bit of a story behind that, but that'll be for another podcast when we speak to him about his CD and SV event with the Roops training that Alan from AM Details is coming to do in November. So we're going to have another session with Pete later on in November once that's all over. But thanks very much, Pete, from myself, Richard at the Leather Repair Company, and Adam at AR Details in Hull. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pete.
Thank you very much, Pete. Been a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Take care now.
Thank you.